Woke corporations like Cracker Barrel have forgotten that they are actually in business to serve the customer. Not only have they changed the logo, but long ago, under the leadership of their new CEO, they wanted to modernize their messaging. And so they painted all of their rocking chairs in rainbow colors for the world to see. So now they want to promote gay values to appease the human rights campaign, among other people in our woke culture. Rather than take on the responsibility that they were supposed to have to serve their customer, they have taken a sharp turn towards adherence to the message of identity politics.
Papa Snoop, how she have a baby with a woman? She a woman. Oh,
From lectures about climate change to dudes pretending to be women, all of these woke corporations have gone on to preach their values rather than to serve. And unfortunately, well, their message stinks.
I would say arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin.
Imagine a world of ice cream and butterflies where the messages that companies promoted were actually great and moral and upstanding and good rather than a reproductive wasteland.
My panda, my choice, Mom.
Finally, a group of Christians have gotten serious and we've started fighting back. And we started asking some questions.
Why are you gay?
That's a good question too, but actually, what gives you the right to promote the disintegration of marriage at a time when fewer people are getting married and we're below replacement rate? What happened to you selling chicken and promoting Americana? I mean, certainly we can ask those kind of questions. So now we're supposed to pretend that it doesn't matter that you want to abandon all of that. So I'll tell you what. Pull up a chair, and I'll remind you today, all of you listening or watching, why it's a bad thing that corporate responsibility has fallen into the hands of the dumbest people possible. Why it matters that businesses know they serve us and not the other way around, and how we can get back to sanity if we actually care about our societal decline, and most importantly, why the values promoted in Scripture should dominate our modern discourse.
Boys and girls, the Lord Jesus Christ is the one.
Welcome to the show. My name is Uberman. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Today, if you couldn't already tell, I'm going to try to give you a Christian response to cultural events because we're living in an age of bad ideas, and the only cure for bad ideas are good ideas. Now, today, our show is sponsored by our friends over at Sweet and Savory. Not only do we promote the kind of businesses that deserve to be promoted here, but also you will get more bang for your buck by going to Sweet and Savory than you really will anywhere else. So it's not just values, it's great business. And Sweet and Savory is an online or in-cooking class experience that can teach you to make some of the most amazing food you've ever had in your life. It's great for a date night, great for a group event, whatever you want to do. In order to check out and see all that they have, go to sweetandsavoryclassroom.com where you can scroll through a list of their past classes and what they have to stream online. And then you can also book a cooking class experience in person in one of their upcoming classes. So go to sweetandsavoryclassroom.com, maybe poke around in their store a little bit, buy tons of stuff. And when you do so, make sure to check out using the promo code IndieThinker so they know we sent you. Just recently on Good Morning America, the Cracker Barrel CEO stopped in to say hello. Now, no one has ever really thought to care about who the CEO of Cracker Barrel is. We just needed to know that their pancakes were fried in Grandma's kitchen and that the fried chicken was crispy. But the CEO made sure to step out of the shadows in order to enlighten us all about the branding that is taking place, or rebranding to be more specific, that's taking place at Cracker Barrel. Here's her talking about that.
What if all the customers are coming at you hard enough about the look of the restaurant and they want to go back to the old way? Would you do it?
Honestly, the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive that people like what we're doing. I'll give you another soundbite. I actually happened to be in Orlando last week with all of our managers. We bring them together and every other year. And the number one question that I got asked, Michael, was, how can I get a remodel? When can I get a remodel? How do I get on the list?
Oh, really?
So because the feedback and the buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team members. They want to work in a wonderful restaurant. So we're doing everything for our guests and our team members.
Now I'll go ahead and tell the joke that everybody else has been telling online, that they have removed the cracker and the barrel, but they haven't done so to better things. They've only done so and left us with words. And that's the point, right? The deconstruction movement and much of this that we're seeing in society today seems aimed directly at trying to remove all meaning from society. So if you ask yourself, why do we care about updated decor and the change of a logo? Don't you have better things to talk about? Well, the truth is that we have better things to talk about, only in that if we could get to the conversation we really need to have as a society, if it weren't for this kind of stuff getting in the way, then sure. But as long as the devil is in the details, we should focus on the devil, because this isn't just about minimalistic design, and this isn't about MAGA trying to change the world through fascism. If you still are claiming online or any other place that Donald Trump is a fascist or a racist or anything like that, then you're so stupid! Frankly, there's probably little help for you, and I don't know that you'll get a lot from this show because you don't think for yourself, and this show is dedicated to at least trying to help encourage that kind of thing. The reality is that the reason this matters is because it's not just about a rebranding or a redesign. This is about a company that long ago decided that they would spend more time trying to focus on chastising the American public because they're not gay enough, while also claiming that they're a company that promotes traditional values. Now, sure enough, Cracker Barrel started off promoting traditional values, but ever since this new CEO came in, they've been doing things quite differently. And you can see this picture on the screen now that is from their website. I assure you this isn't AI or anything else. This is from their website, because a while back it became more important for them to make sure that the Human Rights Campaign is endorsing them rather than they actually serve their customers, which largely don't want to sit on gay rocking chairs. And by the way, I'm thinking to myself, what kind of seat does a gay rocking chair have? And as I venture down that path, let's stay far away from that and just focus here for just a moment on what really matters. Initially, the real problem here is that when a company forgets that it's there to serve the people, well, then the customer service really stinks. And I don't know if you've been to a drive-through restaurant lately where a teenager with a headset has all the power. But customer service is dying in our generation, and that in and of itself should be enough to get us up in arms. Companies need to remember that a couple of elite CEOs going into consulting sessions with million-dollar consulting firms are not necessarily what a business is all about. And when businesses return to what they are about, serving the customer, well, it provides a better experience for you as the customer. So when a business forgets what its main focus and goal is, it needs to revisit that and return to that. So it needs to be conservative in that way. There isn't a single person out there, in other words, who is asking for a new updated rebrand of Cracker Barrel. This is why the CEO has to jump immediately to people that we don't have access to their team leads that are so excited about this rebrand. Well, let me just put it to you this way. After this announcement, Cracker Barrel absolutely tanked. And they lost around, when it was all said and done, around $90 million because of this rebranding effort. All of this should be an illustration to Cracker Barrel, and hopefully it will be, that we didn't ask for a Cracker Barrel of today. So why are you trying to give us something that no one is asking for? In other words, you've forgotten what your business is all about. And I think it's important to remind businesses when they do forget that, especially when they're trying to promote things in the meantime that are absolutely disgusting and vile. So here's a couple of reasons why I think it's important for us to care about this and for corporations not to go woke. And the first one is this. I hope we understand by now that these things aren't done in a vacuum. The woke movement isn't just a bunch of bleeding heart liberals or progressives that have an overt fixation upon racializing everything and putting identity politics into everything. There is a purpose behind all of this. There's a guy named Antonio Gramsci, and maybe you've heard of the name. If you haven't, you should know that he is largely responsible for the kind of cultural Marxism that we see in the woke movement. Essentially, while he was in prison in Italy, he wrote some letters and papers, but only these letters and papers from prison weren't like Dietrich Bonhoeffer's. This guy, even though he was being oppressed, was also an oppressor, and he was trying to illustrate why the Marxist revolution had failed and how we could actually implement Marxism and communism into the culture. And so his big idea was that essentially we needed to attack hegemonic powers, or in other words, we needed to invade cultural institutions. We needed a long march through the institutions in order to implement the communist revolution that we all so desperately need. So we can't do it politically, we can't do it economically, as Marx said, but rather we need to do it institutionally because, as Breitbart once said, culture is upstream from politics. So we have to impact those places that influence and make the culture. Gramsci was right. Institutions like Cracker Barrel and other corporations do have a large influence on society. So please understand that first and foremost, the reason we're against this is because it is purely Marxist. And Marxism is absolutely stupid. And we don't want it wreaking havoc upon our society. So when I bring up Antonio Gramsci, it's not to say that the CEO of Cracker Barrel is a card-carrying Marxist. It's just simply to say that she is certainly carrying on the tradition of what Gramsci was talking about. And I do believe that there are people who are absolutely happy to see this kind of thing because they absolutely want to destroy our society and remake it in the image of Karl Marx. And I have something to say about that. And essentially, it's just one word. No, not on my watch. And I mean it. I'm sick and tired of this junk. When woke corporations move in, I know what you guys are about. I know what you're really after. I know what your ultimate desire is. And it isn't purely just to try to appeal to a small vocal minority in the culture. It's to reshape our culture. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to stand for that. But there's also something else. The reason I think we should resist the woke movement and woke corporations is not just because they want to take a long walk through a march through the institutions, but it's also because the woke movement is totally stupid. And certainly being stupid is a pet peeve of mine. And just so I'm not being like self-important here, I'll just say the things that I hate the most about myself is when I do stupid things. And we should dislike stupid things and call them out when we see them, like this, like taking the cracker and the barrel out of Cracker Barrel, because they didn't just rebrand and come up with a new logo. They're taking all the meaning out of Cracker Barrel. They're trying to take all of the tradition and the family values that company used to promote. That's what this new CEO is doing. So they're demeaning what Cracker Barrel really stands for. And in other words, they're demeaning Americana. They're demeaning American traditional values. And we should have something to say about that. So when they say new, what they actually mean is destroying or demeaning, which, by the way, I should mention, is a Marxist tactic. If you do not have a set of moral values outside of what your leaders and your institutions are creating for you, then guess what? Whatever they want to do, wherever they want to take society, they can take it. And what will we say about it? If our God is the government, then we have to worship and bow down to whatever they say. Unless there is a set of moral values that exist outside, that transcend the institutions that we're a part of and the government that we adhere to. Then if there is that, then ultimately we can always refer to that. But if not, then we are basically at the whim and the tyranny of the few. And this is, I think, what the Marxists want at the end of the day, is they want to demean a society because it is easier to control. And then the second thing is that this goes back to the woke movement being stupid. Wokesters and deconstructionists want to constantly destroy things that they do not understand in the first place. They see an old man and they're just like, well, that's old. We should definitely get rid of that. Why? They make the mistake of Chesterton's fence. And if you don't know who G.K. Chesterton is, I'm going to try to get more of his stuff on the platform. It's great. But essentially, Chesterton said that you shouldn't remove a fence unless you know why it's there in the first place, because it could be keeping something in or keeping something out, in other words. That you shouldn't just deconstruct for deconstruction's sake. Understand, for crying out loud, why you're actually removing the thing. Why are you changing it? Because you might be changing things and deconstructing things that you won't be able to put back together once you realize that they were actually important. So if a fence is up, maybe there's a reason for it, and just going around and destroying things because you don't understand them maybe is stupid. And this is what deconstructionists do. They constantly want to remove anything that's there because they want to put their own little touches upon things. And they don't realize in the process whether or not the things that they're messing with actually are good, because they don't care about that. They don't care about good and bad, right and wrong. They care simply about making themselves feel good. And that is problematic, to say the least. Because what if, just what if these organizations actually do have influence and they do make a difference in society, and all of a sudden they start deconstructing Americana and they make something else in its place? And what if, slowly but surely, their changes and their influence has a degrading impact on our society? And what if it makes it worse than it already is? That's why we care. So why do we care? We care because we're sick and tired of CEOs telling us what to do rather than serving the interest of the customer. Because Cracker Barrel did stand for Americana, and that doesn't need to be changed. We don't need a new logo for that. So bring back the Cracker and the Barrel. Because today, maybe it's Cracker Barrel and Americana, and maybe you don't care much about that, but tomorrow, trust me, it will be something else. And we're already experiencing enough loss in the present. We've already seen marriage totally redefined, human life totally redefined, and moral values totally destroyed in the present. We care because what's happening in our society now is a symptom of a greater sickness. It's not just a rebranding, and it's not just a renaming. It's the destruction of values that actually matter and can hold us together. I care because the devil loves to destroy, and I hate everything the devil loves. That should be enough, but I realize it won't be for all people. And so maybe I'll just end with this. Whenever we have a discussion on moral values, we should be asking ourselves, who says? Who has the right to dictate what moral values are good and what is truly new and refreshing and what truly is beneficial to society? Who says? Trust me, it isn't Democrats, and it isn't those with the loudest voice protesting out in the streets always. No, there's a higher source for it all. And if we can get closer to businesses that echo those values, well, I can't help but believe it would make this world a better place. And if that's true, then all of the pressure and all of the people in conservative circles who are right now being accused of being part of cancel culture and maybe even being called hypocrites as a result of that, all I can tell you is this: there are some cancel cultures that are bad, and then there are some cancel cultures that are good. Stick to the ones who promote the good and spend your money with those businesses. All right, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you loved this show, you'll love becoming a member over at indiethinker.org/support, where you can gain access to exclusive perks like ebooks, movies, audiobooks, and so much more. Don't forget to check out the sponsors down below in this podcast, but most importantly, go with God.